Zambia was colonized in the 1890s by the British South Africa Company, led by Cecil John Rhodes. By 1900, the BSAC had control over areas that now include Malawi, Zimbabwe, and Zambia. After failing to locate significant gold deposits, the company relinquished political authority over these territories in 1923. In August 1953, the Federation of Rhodesia and Nyasaland was created to promote economic development in what was known as British Central Africa. This initiative faced strong resistance from the local population, leading to a state of emergency. The federation was dissolved on 31st December 1963. After the disbandment, Nyasaland achieved independence on 6 July 1964, later becoming Malawi, while Northern Rhodesia secured its independence from Britain on 24 October 1964 and was renamed the Republic of Zambia, with Kenneth Kaunda as its inaugural president. Kaunda's political party, the United National Independence Party, captured 55 of the 75 seats in the Legislative Assembly, defeating the African National Congress Party, led by Henry Nkumbula. Kaunda's election victory marked a significant step in the fight against colonial rule in the region. Upon taking office, he reached out to the South African Prime Minister, requesting that African leaders, including Nelson Mandela, be imprisoned in Zambia instead of South Africa. During his presidency, Kaunda permitted liberation movements from Angola, South Africa, Mozambique, Namibia, and Zimbabwe to utilize his country as a base for their efforts against white minority governance in the region.
Zambia does not have the capacity to strike back at the enemy because the enemy has been prepared for the last 60, 70 years, South Africa, for the last 54 years, Rhodesia. What's more, centuries behind them coming from the Western countries, vested interests. That is the correct analysis of the problem. And unless you understand it in this way, you will be misled by the enemy.
Political changes in South Africa forced the liberation movement to operate from abroad. The state's violent reaction to escalating demands for fundamental democratic rights limited the activities of the African National Congress, the South African Communist Party, and the Pan-Africanist Congress. Following the NC's ban, the party began to form structures to conduct clandestine political activities within South Africa and set up offices abroad. Notably, in 1961, the ANC initiated its military branch, Umkhonto weSizwe, to pursue armed resistance. That same year, Chief Albert Luthuli, the ANC president, dispatched Vice President Oliver Tambo overseas. Ronald Segal covertly transported Tambo across the border into Botswana. Subsequently, Dr. Yusuf Dadoo, the chairperson of the South African Indian Congress and the underground South African Communist Party, followed suit. Their objective included gathering international financial assistance and diplomatic efforts for sanctions against South Africa. Tambo played a key role in establishing ANC offices in London and Dar es Salaam. In 1962, Nelson Mandela, the commander-in-chief of MK, traveled to several African nations such as Egypt, Algeria, Tunisia, and Morocco, where he and Tambo arranged for military training facilities for MK. In the early 1960s, Zambia was not independent and functioned solely as a transit point for MK guerrillas traveling to Tanzania. MK guerrillas leaving the country passed through Botswana via Zimbabwe into Zambia on their route to Tanzania. In 1962, a contingent of 32 MK recruits departed South Africa, passing through Botswana before going to Zimbabwe, where they met their ZAPU contacts who assisted them in crossing into Zambia toward Tanzania. As surveillance of the route through Zimbabwe intensified due to Rhodesian security forces, an alternative route was identified to bypass Zimbabwe. After Northern Rhodesia achieved independence and became Zambia in 1964, the ANC established an office in Lusaka in 1965. Thomas Nkobi was appointed as the ANC's chief representative in Zambia, a role he maintained until 1968, when he became Deputy Treasurer General. That same year, Mavuso Msimang, a prominent MK member, along with a reconnaissance team, was sent to Zambia to assess the feasibility of creating an infiltration route to South Africa across the Zambezi River via Zimbabwe. Concurrently, MK considered collaborating with other liberation movements and reached out to ZAPU. Discussions with ZAPU commenced in 1966, and by 1967, the leaders of both movements had agreed on a unified military initiative. Following this agreement, a combined military and political high command was established. Notably, this initiative received backing from Zambia and Tanzania, with Zambia permitting MK and Zipra guerrillas to utilize its land as a base for the Wanke and Spililo campaigns. Arms were transported into Zambia from Tanzania and concealed in various locations along the Zambezi Valley. After the Wanke campaign's failure, numerous MK members were arrested and imprisoned in Botswana, where they sought refuge. Zambia was instrumental in facilitating their release, leading to their deportation to its territory. In one notable case, in August 1967, several guerrillas from the Wanke campaign were caught in Botswana, receiving prison terms ranging from 6 to 9 years. Kenneth Kaunda engaged in discussion with Seretse Khama, the president of Botswana, to secure their release. Following significant pressure from the Organization of African Unity and the anti-apartheid movement, Botswana ultimately freed the prisoners and expelled them to Zambia. Tanzania's internal political developments ultimately prompted the ANC to set up its base in Zambia. In October 1969, Oscar Kombona, a former minister who had served in various capacities such as foreign affairs, home affairs, and defense in Tanzania's post-independence government, along with several others, faced treason charges. Potlako K. Lebalo, a founding member of the PAC, who provided testimony during Kombona's treason trial, accused the ANC of being involved in the conspiracy. This accusation infuriated the Tanzanian government, leading to the expulsion of the ANC to Tanzania. Consequently, the ANC relocated its headquarters from Morogoro, Tanzania, to Lusaka, Zambia. In April 1969, delegates from 13 countries in Central and East Africa convened in Zambia to address various African matters, including diplomatic relations with apartheid South Africa. This meeting resulted in the creation of the Lusaka Manifesto, which was signed by all participating countries, except Malawi on 13 April. Although the manifesto advocated for the independence of African nations from colonialism, it adopted a conciliatory stance towards South Africa, acknowledging it as an independent sovereign state and a member of the United Nations, stating that its internal affairs were solely the concern of its people. Nonetheless, it urged for the dismantling of white minority rule through non-violent methods and called for economic sanctions if South Africa failed to abandon its apartheid policies. The African National Congress found the manifesto troubling and rejected it for two primary reasons. Firstly, it emerged shortly after the Wanke campaigns, during which the ANC was striving to escalate its armed resistance, while many African nations appeared to be taking a conciliatory stance towards South Africa. Secondly, as noted by Thomas, the second and possibly more concerning reason for the ANC was that the Lusaka Manifesto undermined one of its key diplomatic positions, that the South African government was an illegal regime. Although the ANC publicly expressed its discontent, given the support that its military wing, MK, was receiving from Tanzania and Zambia, the organization was evidently disturbed by this development. Oliver Tambo made efforts to address the situation by reaching out to Kenneth Kaunda and Julius Nyerere to communicate the ANC's perspective. From the 1970s onward, Lusaka became significant in the ANC's fight against apartheid, mainly due to the deteriorating relationship between the ANC and the Tanzanian government in 1969. Although the ANC was readmitted to Tanzania in 1971 and 1972, its main headquarters remained in Lusaka. From the city, the ANC managed and coordinated the activities of MK across various regions in Southern Africa. Recruits escaping South Africa through Lesotho or Mozambique would typically end up in Lusaka to receive military training. In 1974, Gertrude Shope was appointed the ANC's chief representative in Zambia, a role she maintained until 1981, when she transitioned to lead the women's section. The interaction between Zambia and the ANC was dictated by Zambia's interests. In the mid-1970s, Kenneth Kaunda, initiated detente with the South African government, which negatively impacted the ANC's operations throughout the late 1970s. By late 1975, the Zambian government stopped Radio Freedom broadcasts from its territory to South Africa, which persisted through 1976 and 1977. However, in 1978, the Zambian government permitted ANC and MK to enhance their propaganda efforts by resuming regular broadcasts from Lusaka, in addition to transmissions from Tanzania. Subsequently, other transmission locations like Angola, Madagascar, and Ethiopia were added. Among those associated with Radio Freedom were Paulo Jordan, Lindiwe Mabuza, Josiah Jele, and Johannes Refilwe Mudimu, the coordinator of ANC youth radio programs, who also serve on the editorial board of youth publications. Zambia, wary of its closeness to South Africa, imposed restrictions on ANC operations within its border. As a result, the Zambian government prohibited the formation of MK military training camps and banned MC members from possessing weapons. In light of this limitation, the ANC collaborated closely with ZAPU's military wing, ZIPRA, which had established training camps in Zambia. This partnership extended beyond military training. ZIPRA also assisted MK in apprehending individuals suspected of being spies for the apartheid regime. Olifile Samuel Mcebisa was detained at one of those camps on suspicions of acting as a government informant.
And the MK guys informed Snooky and Keith Mokwabe about my presence. They came. Keith Mokwabe came. He just passed away. You heard about him. He passed away, I think it was in February or somewhere there, or March, yeah. He passed away. Let me say, 6 of the guys who abused me all passed away. I'm still alive. Keith said to me, Tim Shegas, I don't have powers to release you. Only Joe Modise can release you, but he's outside Zambia. I was driven back to ZAPU prison again with those injuries and everything. Hungry, tired. I didn't sleep at Chunga. Same day, back to prison. Now I was sent to the main ZAPU prison now. They called it Mboroma, not that one which were bombed from. Because I think maybe the house was flat, I don't know. I stayed in that prison for 14 months under daily humiliation and hunger because ZIPRA guys were starved purposely. So I experienced that problem. At some stage, I was made to stay in a swampy area. As a result, I have foot and knee problems. Winter, I suffer a lot. So cold entered my knees and feet. So I suffer a lot winter. Right?
MK created a network of clandestine residents throughout various Lusaka suburbs, where recruits were either sent abroad for military training or directed to ZIPRA training facilities. One such location was the Yellow House. Besides serving as an underground transit site for recruits, this house also hosted meetings. Additionally, ANC residences were set up in townships like Lilanda and Chilenje, as well as in suburbs such as Roma, Kabulonga, and Woodlands. The government also permitted the ANC to buy farms and acquire property. Zambia's significance for the ANC and MK grew in the 1980s, as their members were expelled from other nations. The situation became even more critical following a secret agreement between South Africa and Swaziland in 1982, along with the Nkomati Accord in Mozambique in 1984, which made Lusaka increasingly crucial. During the early 1980s, the relationship between newly independent Zimbabwe and the ANC was still evolving. MK in Zambia encountered internal issues when John Mutsabi, a member of the NEC, made allegations of racial discrimination. He asserted that Indians and whites received preferential treatment within the party. citing disparities in accommodation standards as evidence. According to Motsabi, Indians and whites were housed in affluent suburbs like Roma, Kabulonga, and Woodlands, while Africans were relegated to townships such as Lelanda and Chilenje. He also criticized what he perceived as the party's dominance by Xhosa speakers. In response to these claims, Jack Simons criticized the document that Motsabi had prepared. Allegations have been made regarding miscarriages of justice and mistreatment of detainees by the NC security branch, Imbokodo. A notable case that lingers over the party is the death of Muziwake Ngwenya, also known as Tamizulu, an MK and SACP member who died in Lusaka in November 1989. Zulu was held for approximately 16 months on accusations of being an agent for the apartheid government. Just 5 days following his release, he passed away, leading to suspicions of foul play and rumors that he was killed by his comrades. This incident prompted a commission of inquiry, led by Advocate Thembile Louis Skweyiya, to look into human rights violations by the ANC in its military training facilities abroad. Despite the investigation, Zulu's death continues to affect the ANC, with the party's National Working Committee addressing the issue as recently as March 2019.
And then there was the case of Mzwaki Ngwenya, popularly known as Tami Zulu or TZ. TZ was a senior MK commander when Bokodo suspected him of being an informer. His friends in MK and his family denied this vehemently, but to this day the accusation lingers. After a long period of detention in Zambia, he died. The ANC gave 3 reasons for his death. He had AIDS, he had TB, and he was poisoned by unknown persons.
I challenge whoever says TZ was a police agent. The ANC is a free movement now. They should institute a commission of inquiry headed by a judicial officer where we are all represented. I challenge them to prove that he ever was, or my family ever had any connection with the special branch.
The apartheid government reacted to the presence of MK and the ANC in Zambia through various measures. One of the earliest actions taken was to enhance collaboration with Rhodesian security forces. Following the unsuccessful attempts of MK and ZIPRA military campaigns to send guerrillas into South Africa via Southern Rhodesia, the latter sought help from South Africa. Consequently, South Africa dispatched police officers to assist the Rhodesians in capturing MK and ZIPRA guerrillas. Several MK guerrillas apprehended in Southern Rhodesia were handed over to South African authorities. Michael Kitsodingake was detained in Southern Rhodesia while on his way to Zambia on December 8, 1965, and was unlawfully transferred to Pretoria, where he was charged with sabotage and sentenced to 15 years in prison. Around this time, Zambia raised concerns regarding the presence of South African forces in Southern Rhodesia. South Africa also provided intelligence concerning ZAPU-ZIPRA operations in Zambia. Craig Williamson, a counterintelligence agent for the South African government, collaborated closely with Anthony White, a former sellout scout, to carry out the assassination of Joshua Nkomo. Williamson relayed information about the Liberation Center operated by ZAPU in Lusaka to the Rhodesian government, indicating potential targets. In April 1979, the Liberation Center in Lusaka was bombed. The day following the attack, Williamson visited the devastated area, accompanied by Laban Oyaka, the Assistant Executive Secretary of the OAU Liberation Committee. The apartheid regime recruited individuals within the ANC and MK to gather intelligence for South Africa. In March 1981, the ANC's intelligence agency stumbled upon a complex espionage network operating in Zambia for an extended period. Piper, a member of the ANC's NEC and SACP in Lusaka, inadvertently exposed his identity and tried to escape to South Africa. He was apprehended in Botswana and returned to the ANC Security Division in Zambia. Following interrogation, he confessed to collaborating with the apartheid regime and named several other government informants. Timothy Tebogo Chief Sirame, also known as Kenneth Mahamba, who had ascended to the position of MK Camp Commander at Cuba Shane, Angola, was identified by Piper as a covert agent for the South African government. Mahamba was convicted by the ANC tribunal and executed in Angola. Alongside collaborating with Southern Rhodesia, South African security forces executed targeted assassinations in Zambia, which commenced in the 1970s and intensified in the mid to late 1980s. In 1974, Boy Mveve, also known as John Dube, the ANC deputy representative in Lusaka, was killed by a parcel bomb. Mveve and Maxwell Sisulu were sorting mail at the ANC office during their lunch break when the incident occurred. Sisulu reminisced, "We often sought the post during lunch when it was calm. The office was empty, allowing us to take a break for other activities." Mveve then opened what appeared to be a book, which detonated, instantly severing his hands and face and leading to his death. Sisulu, who sustained injuries but survived the blast, regained consciousness in the hospital the following day. The South African government clearly initiated a campaign of focused bombings aimed at ANC members and infrastructure in an effort to dissuade Zambia from backing liberation struggle. Nevertheless, Zambia continued to serve as the central hub for the ANC, where the fight for freedom was orchestrated.